everyone. Hi, and welcome to this webinar organized by Docsity in partnership with the University of Sydney. I'm Alessandra, nice to meet you all, and I'll be the host today for the event on behalf of Docsity. I see here that the first people are already starting to join us, so welcome you all. And we're gonna wait a few minutes before starting to allow everyone to connect to the webinar. And in the meantime, feel free to say hi on our chat here in Zoom. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us and also thank our panelists for being here with us today. I want to introduce you all to Paulina Dominguez, a representative of the International Recruitment Department of the University of Sydney. So together with her today, we're going to explore the theme, which is how to finance your studies at the University of Sydney. During the webinar, we're going to learn about more the academic offering at the University of Sydney and also explore the application process and how to receive financial aid for your studies at the University of Sydney. I'd like to remind you all that after the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to ask direct questions to Paulina. So don't be shy and type over your questions, doubts, and curiosities about the programs, or also financial aid and admissions in the Q&A section that you see here on Zoom, and we'll be happy to go through them at the end of the webinar. Also, for you interested in receiving a certificate of attendance by Docsity for this webinar, stay tuned because we will be posting the link to get the certificate at the end of the session. So I see that many are joining us. Welcome, everyone. And I think we're able to start now. So welcome again to those who just joined us. And I think without further ado, now leaving the floor to Paulina for her presentation. We're going to see each other in a few minutes again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alessandra, sorry. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and for being interested in the University of Sydney. My name is Paulina. And yeah, as Alessandra just mentioned, First of all, I would love to hear from all of you. So tell us your name and where you are from in the chat. I know you guys are from all over America. So if you can write down in the chat your name and where are you from, that would be good. So we can know a little bit more about you all. Well, then, as I just mentioned before, my name is Paulina. I'm the International Recruitment Officer for Latin America here at the University of Sydney. And today I will be talking a little bit more about scholarships and how to finance your studies here at the University of Sydney. I know that always the main question is, how am I going to finance my studies and what kind of support the University of Sydney offers. So we are going to be talking about that as well. Application process, our year timeline. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about accommodation as well. And as Alessandra just mentioned, we will have a Q&A session towards the end of the presentation. So make sure to type all your questions in the Q&A box. So I will be answering all your questions at the end of the presentation. Welcome again for those who have just joined the webinar. I would like to start with a phrase by our professor, Mark Scott, which is the Vice Chancellor and Principal here at the University of Sydney. And when he started this position, he said that brilliant careers start with a transformational education at the University of Sydney. And that's what we believe. That's what we do here. We do transformational education for you guys to succeed at a professional level. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit more about Sydney as a city. Sydney is a beautiful city. It's Australia's largest and most dynamic and beautiful city. To be honest, I don't think I've ever been in a more multicultural city than Sydney. It's crazy the amount of people you see from overseas. It's actually, when I saw the statistics, I was just like a little bit in belief, because they say that 73% of Sydney siders being born overseas, and the 75% speaking a language other than English at home. So that actually speaks of how multicultural this city is. You can find food from everywhere, from Latin American food to European, Mediterranean food, Asian food, and everything is very traditional food, because you have people from everywhere here. So it's actually very nice to see how multicultural this city has become in the past 10 years. Sydney is as well one of the world's friendliest city and one of the top 11 most livable cities in the world. So it's actually, for us that are from Latin America, I think safety is some of the key aspects that we look for when we're trying to find a study destination. And Sydney it has it all. So Sydney is safe. The people here is very friendly. So you are walking the streets and everyone is just smiling at you, saying hi. You don't even know them and they don't even care. So it's actually really great. Sydney is also one of the most popular cities for international students, with over 170,000 students from overseas. So that means that you will find people from everywhere around the world here. What are some things to do in Sydney? There are hundreds of thousands of things to do here in Sydney. First of all is to take a bus to Bondi, Coogee, or Bronte Beach. So that's right. So we have the beach to probably 20 to 30 minutes by bus from campus. So it's actually really good. So students, when they are finishing classes, and it's just still early, they just catch the bus, go to the beach and have some beach volleyball, and they played soccer as well. So it's actually quite common for students and for people, professionals who actually work. When it's summer here, after you finish your classes, your work, you go to beach, you have a drink, you do some sports. People in Australia in general, they like to be outside. They like to be outside activities, outdoor activities. They go to the bushwalks, they go swimming, they go to the museums, they go yeah, everywhere. You, since 5 a.m. in the morning, if you go out, you can see people already walking their dogs and things like that. So it's actually a very alive city. Another important thing for international students to do here is the bushwalk in the Royal National Park or the Blue Mountains. It's actually a very popular destination as well. Check out one of over 30 museums. So if you guys like art and festivals and museums, Sydney is the city for it. There's also a ferry that goes all around the harbor. So it's actually very beautiful if you take that when it's around 8 p.m. because is the harbor bridge is so lit up and it's actually very, very beautiful. So these are some of the most common things to do here in Sydney, but there are thousands of things to do. And this is Sydney, so welcome to Sydney. It's actually a very beautiful city, as I just mentioned before. We are surrounded of just water, so you can have a pretty nice view from almost everywhere in the city. This one here is the famous Harbor Bridge. In one of our alumni actually work in the construction of the Harbor Bridge as a chief engineering. So we do have quite high profile alumni as well here from the University of Sydney. So as you can see here is the iconic Opera House. And we have here our Sydney Conservatorium of Music. It's where all our students that study music they do all the practical sessions. Then we do have a campus here in Surrey Hills, mainly for students studying dentistry. Then we have another small campus in the CBD, right in the middle of the city. And we teach a couple of courses from our business school in this campus. And then our main campus is, our main campus is right here, which is Camperdown and Darlington campus. So that's the big campus, this one, the one that is behind me. That's in Camperdown and Darlington. It's very, very big campus. All the other courses are taught in this campus. So we have the accommodation. I will explain a little bit more the services we offer here at our main campus. But if you are not going to study our Master of Business Administration or our Diploma in Business Administration, then you will be studying on our main campus. We have like about 60 kilometers away from the Sydney CBD, we'll have our Camden campus. So our Camden campus is basically for students doing veterinary science. So we have large facilities there for large animals where students can do the practical work over there. We also have some research facilities in our Camden campus. So usually students doing from their second semester of veterinary studies, they go to this campus, they live there, they do their practical work there, and they spend the rest of their course living in the Camden campus. They sometimes have to come to the main campus for some lectures or things like that, but their main activity will be in the Camden campus. And we also have this Westmed precinct as well, which is basically for research in the areas of health and sciences. And we have another research hubs outside of the New South Wales area, which is in another state such as Queensland, for example. We do have some research hubs as well. But we don't have anything outside Australia. Then the University of Sydney is a top 20 university in the world. We are now ranked equal 19 in the world according to the QS World University Rankings 2024. So the University of Sydney is quite well recognized worldwide. So we were founded in 1850. So we are the first university in Australia. As I just mentioned, we are ranked equal 19 of over 22,000 universities worldwide. And our campus is already open to welcome students and engage face-to-face with teachers and peers as well. And this is our main campus. This is the quadrangle, same as I have here in my background. This is what we call our quadrangle. As you see here, we always organize a lot of events, our welcome weeks, everything is just around the quadrangle. We always have a lot of tourists here because they say that this main building is has some sort of reminders them to the Harry Potter buildings as well. So they all come here, take some pictures. The campus, as I just mentioned, is actually very, very big. We have 1 museum, 5 art galleries, 3 concert halls, more than 30 cafes, bars, and food outlets for our students. We also have gyms, Olympic pool, and sport facilities for those who really like doing sports. 24 hours libraries. We have 7 libraries. The biggest library in the Northern Hemisphere is here at the University of Sydney. We also have doctors, dentists, physiotherapy, optometry, psychologists. So all those services are right here on campus. I always like to say to students that this campus is sort of like a village because you have all the services you need. We also have post office, we have banks, And we also have accommodation on campus. We have more than 18,000 dorms on campus for our students. So the best and brightest minds live here. What do I mean when I say that? Is that we've taught 8 prime ministers, including the current Australian prime ministers. We have produced 5 Nobel laureates, 3 astronauts, and more than 145 Olympians. So we are very, very important when it comes to sports as well here at the University of Sydney. You will join a community of over 145 nationalities. So we are a very large institution. We have over 75,000 students, including 30,000 international students. We are already 8,500 staff. And we also have a 380,000 global alumni to connect you with our worldwide network. So yeah, we are now, well, we have developed already our long-term strategy from now to 2032, from 2022 to 2032. That's a 10-year strategy. And something that we have implemented last year is that our community thrives through diversity. So diversity is something that we actually take very seriously. So social equity is at the heart of our past and our future. So by 2032, our community will be more diverse and inclusive, helping us all to shape a positive future. So our message today for you is everyone is welcome at the University of Sydney. And something I know that is actually important to you guys when it comes to try to look for your undergrad studies or postgrad studies, and you want to do it overseas, it's actually very important and normal to look for the rankings, right? Because we want to study at a good university. We want to study at a university that has reputation. We want to study at a university that we can actually have that practical experience. We actually want to stand out, and that's actually very valid. So the University of Sydney actually does pretty well when it comes to rankings worldwide. So we are first university in Australia and 4th in the world for graduate employability in the 2022 QS University rankings, because our main focus for students is to give them that professional experience while you study. So here in Australia, and I'm talking from my own experience here, it's very difficult to find a job in Australia if you don't have professional experience in Australia. So what we do here at the University of Sydney is help you out to build that professional experience while you study, right? So from the very first semester, you will be having a lot of real projects to work on, to have internships, work placements, and a lot of opportunity for you to build your professional career, to be able to have professional experience once you complete your degree. So as I just mentioned before, we are top 20 university in the world. We are equal 19 in the world for 2024 university rankings. We are also first in Australia and 7th in the world for sustainability. This is ranking that has just come out in 2023, and the University of Sydney is doing very, very well in sustainability. And we actually are very good and first in Australia for some consecutive years already in some subjects such as medicine, arts and humanities. Our Master of Management is being first in Australia for several years now in nursing, oncology and sustainability. Then what else we have here? Right, so we are the only university who offers the widest range of academic programs in Australia. We offer more than 450 programs across our 9 faculties and schools in architecture, design and planning, arts and social sciences, business, education, social work, engineering and information technology, law, medicine and health, music and science. So for those of you who are here, please write in the chat, tell me in the chat what sort of study area are you interested in, and if you are interested in undergrad studies or postgrad studies. So I want to know a little bit more about you guys and what you are interested in. I can't see anyone writing in the chat now, so please let us know what study area are you interested in, so we can have a little bit more idea of what to present. Alrighty, well, this is something actually very important for international students. So Sydney is more than a classroom, and it's actually not only about to come to study and just study. Your life is not in a classroom. Your life is actually outside your classroom as well. So for that, we do have over 200 clubs and societies to choose from. It can be social, academic, professional. So this is the time for you guys to start to make friends, to start to build those relationships. If you're interested in sports, if you play at the professional level, any sport, you can come and do it here at the University of Sydney as well, right? So in terms of sport and fitness, we have from casual to elite teams. The University of Sydney rugby team is the oldest club in Australia and 8th oldest in the world. So we are actually quite good at sports as well. We have plus 250 international partners, and we also have the largest mobility program in Australia. So you do have extra support, extra activities from the University of Sydney, and this is some of the opportunities you need to seize, right? So what I've seen since I just started this position about 3 years ago, almost 4 years now, from a day-to-day talks to students is that you never know when the opportunities will come or when the doors are going to open, right? So you have to talk to students, you have to talk to your teachers, you have to talk to your peers, because there it is when the opportunities will come. So if you don't take the opportunity to talk to other students, to join a social club, then it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for you to start doing some networking and try to find opportunities. So there was this student, for example, from Mexico last year. He completed an MBA here at the University of Sydney. He went back to Mexico and he made really good friends with students in Europe and in China. And then after 1 year, they decided to join forces and try to import and export some products. So they actually created a company and they are doing very well right now. So that's what I mean when I say you need to do networking. You need to start building those relationships as soon as you get here, because the opportunities, I'm really sure, will come through that. Also through the university itself, as internships, your work placements. But the better you do how to network, the better you have start to building those networks, the more opportunity you will have. And I really like this slide about choose your own adventure, because that's what you are gonna do once you decide to step out of your comfort zone and come study at the University of Sydney. This will become an adventure for you. So we do have career support for all our students. We have academic support. We have a health and well-being, mental and physical support as well for all our students. Inclusion and disability, as I just mentioned of my previous slides, faith, religious and cultural, because we receive students from everywhere around the world. Some of them are very religious, so we do have support for those students as well. orientation and arrival, we have a whole 2 weeks of welcoming our new students. So you have opportunities to interact with another new students starting as well that same semester. We do have our welcome fest the very week before the commencement of your studies. It's all just party, it's all just about networking, it's all just about knowing about the clubs and societies, sports and facilities, knowing your way around the University of Sydney. So it's actually quite fun. And look, this picture here is about our welcome fest. So students are all about the place, enjoying. We have food trucks, we have music, live music, bands, games. It's actually very fun for students. We also have, as I mentioned, accommodation on campus. We have more than 18,000 dorms on campus for all our students. And we do have 2 types of accommodation options: university residential halls or dorms. Those are the prices per week. It's roughly the prices per week. But university residential halls means that you have it's very independent, so you will have your own room, you will probably share bathroom, there are kitchen, study share spaces as well, so you will have to go to supermarket, do your grocery shopping, cook yourself, clean after yourself, and it's a little bit more independent. So we also have the residential colleges, and the residential colleges are a little bit more like sort of hotel type of accommodation, where students actually have all their meals are included. Cleaning services are included as well. What else? Some extracurricular activities, study groups. So there are a lot of support for students when you stay at a residential college. For some of the residential halls, dorms, and colleges, the minimum stay will be 1 year, but for some others, it can be probably 6 months. So it's actually very important that you start doing your research about accommodation in advance, because we tend to run out of rooms quite quickly. So if you are interested in starting your studies in 2024, for example, I will suggest that you probably start looking for accommodation now, because it tends to get quite busy as well. But you also have other options, for example, of campus and private housing or independently owned buildings. So if you decide to live outside of campus, then you will have the further away you go from campus, the less expensive will become. But there are actually some, for example, if you go to 2 or 3 stations away from the University of Sydney, it actually becomes quite cheap. So it's quite affordable, not cheap, but affordable. So there are a lot of options for international students in terms of accommodation. 2023 was a really boom. So we have a lot of international students actually starting to come in after the pandemic or post-pandemic. So we had a shortage of accommodation in Sydney. And now things are becoming just get back to normal again. So I guess for 2024 it will be a little bit more better for students who want to start their studies in 2024 or 2025. So that's in terms of accommodation. So we have some pictures here. Those here in the bottom right hand side, it's the residential colleges. This is Regiment Building, which is actually one of the independent dorms or halls, for example. This is another residential college. They have actually rooftops where the students can organize some barbecues, parties, and things like that. So it's actually quite convenient for students. And now we move on to financing your studies at the University of Sydney. So this is roughly costs that you will be facing if you want to come and study overseas here at the University of Sydney mainly, or Sydney itself. And I know many of you have heard about that Sydney is very expensive and it's one of the most expensive cities in Australia and blah blah blah. And I think that's becoming a myth now, because Melbourne is quite expensive as well now. So it has become expensive everywhere, I guess, in not only in Australia. But it might be true that Sydney is a little bit more expensive than other cities in Australia, but it's also true that you will have more job opportunities in Sydney because it's the largest city in Australia, it's the iconic city. You will have more opportunities here, and also the salary will be higher than any other city in Australia. So it actually becomes quite equal. So if you are living in Sydney and you are working and you are making Australian dollars with a Sydney salary, then it doesn't actually get expensive, right? So in terms of University of Sydney costs, you will need to pay tuition fees. I know you're seeing here $88,000 and you will see what the hell, that's very expensive. Don't worry, that's only for medicine. Our doctor of medicine, our doctor of veterinary medicine, and our doctor of dental medicine. But aside the veterinary medicine and health and medicine, our costs are quite, let's see, affordable, we can say, if you compare prices with probably universities in the US maybe, or Canada. So it's actually quite affordable. Well, you will need to pay your tuition fees, student services and amenities fees, overseas student health cover. So as an international student, to meet the conditions of your student visa, you will need to hold an overseas student health cover to be able to apply for your student visa. Then there is the student visa cost as well, and application fee. So for all students joining here from Docsity, I'm happy to waive the application fee for you. So you will need to contact me saying that you have been in the Docsity webinar and you would like to apply at the University of Sydney, to the University of Sydney, and I'm happy to waive those $150 for you, right? I'm gonna give you guys my email address and then of the presentation, so that you can have my contact details. And you also have to consider the Sydney living costs, right? So food and groceries, lifestyle expenses, academic support, travel as well, accommodation. So those costs that you see here are for a single student, right? And this is roughly cost. So this actually will vary according to your lifestyle. So there are some students that actually spend more on food and groceries, and there are some students that actually spend less, right? So it all actually will depend on your lifestyle. So it can be very different for each of you guys. So a single student living away from home will require at least 1,754 Australian dollars per month. And this is not me saying it, this is the government of Australia who has established and set this amount for accommodation, food, utilities, and entertainment. So that's what you actually should consider for your monthly expenses for a single student. Okay, moving on to scholarships. That's the most probably important part here, or one of the most common questions we usually receive. Yes, we do have scholarships available for international students. We have a general scholarship that is called Vice Chancellor International Scholarship Scheme. So this is up to 40,000 Australian dollars for students who have academic excellence. So you will really need to do very well either on your high school if you are interested in undergraduate studies, or in your university if you are interested in a master's degree or a PhD. You don't need to make separate application for the Vice Chancellor International Scholarship Scheme. So you will be automatically considered once you have an unconditional offer of admissions from the University of Sydney. Okay, so that's the general scholarship. Then we have the faculty scholarships. So each of our faculties, they do have scholarships available for international students. And yes, it might be also based on academic merit. So those run from $5,000-$10,000 up to $20,000, for example. Here is our MBA Director's Scholarship. They do have, the business school have the MBA Director's Scholarship for those students that are interested in our Master of Business Administration, Leadership and Enterprise. Then we have accommodations. Some of the accommodation facilities, they do also offer a scholarship for international students. And we also have a sport and fitness scholarship. And just please bear in mind that the sport and fitness scholarship is not like in the US that you have 100% scholarship. We don't offer full scholarships at all. All the scholarships we have are partial scholarships. So the Elite Athlete program is for students who are practicing sports at a professional level. And the amount, I'm not really sure about the amount because it varies semester by semester, but it can be from $5,000, $2,000 up to $10,000. But that may vary, right? So those are the support you can have. And we also have a surprise for only international students from Latin America. So we do have the Sydney International Student Award, which is an award for outstanding international students from South and Central America, including Mexico. And you need to hold an offer to a full-time undergrad course or postgrad or research degree, and you will receive a 20% contribution from the University of Sydney towards your total yearly tuition fee for the whole duration of your course. So this is a 20% off per year for the whole duration of your course if you are a genuine student from Latin America. Look, I am not saying this is based on academic merit. This is not based on academic merit. You will need to meet our minimum entry requirements, yes, but it's not based on academic merit, right? So to apply, you will need to submit a statement of purpose with your application to the university, and the statement of purpose should not exceed 200 words in each of these sections. So you will need to tell us about yourself. You will need to tell us what has inspired you to apply to the University of Sydney, and you will need to tell us what you want to achieve with your studies at the University of Sydney, or how it will help you to achieve your goals. You write down that, you submit that personal statement, you attach that personal statement to your online application, and that's it. That's how you apply. Okay, that's 20% of your tuition fee for the whole duration of your degree, only for Latin American students applying with Latin American passports, because I know some of you guys may have dual citizenship from, I don't know, somewhere in Europe or US or something like that. So it only applies for students applying to the University of Sydney with a Latin American passport. Okay, moving on, I know in some of Latin American countries, such as Colombia, Peru, Guatemala, Honduras, Chile, Mexico, Paraguay, you guys do have some government local sponsor scholarships. So we do offer this same 20% discount per year, but is guaranteed. Okay, so if you are a Call Futuro winner, or What to Futuro winner, or something like that, you will have automatically that 20% discount per year towards your tuition fee. Okay, it's not that you have the Sydney International Student Award 20% plus this 20%. It's not two 20%. It's just only one. But for those students who doesn't have the opportunity to apply for a government scholarship, then you will need to apply for the Sydney International Student Award. That's not guaranteed, but I can tell you that if you are a genuine student, if you meet our minimum academic requirements, you might you actually can have that. So what the University of Sydney says is that you cannot have two scholarships together, but you can have a scholarship and an award together. So yes, you can combine the Vice Chancellor International Scholarship or the Faculty Scholarship with the 20% of the Sydney International Student Award. I've seen students from Latin America getting those two scholarships if they have good performance, a good academic, academic excellence, then you can have both, okay? And we also have other university financial support as well. The University of Sydney is always supporting our international students. So we have some loans, financial support, vouchers, our Money Smart, food hubs. So the food hub is a service that provides free food and other essential items to University of Sydney students who are struggling with finances or food insecurity and things like that. So there are always a lot of support for you guys, a little extra support besides the scholarships. And also, you know that you can work while studying here in Australia as well. So if you're holding a student visa, so you will have work rights for Australian student visa holders, which is you can work up to 48 hours per fortnight. So yeah, you can maintain full-time study load and ensure satisfactory course progress and attendance, of course. You can work at the uni, you can work in hospitality or retail in your area of expertise or align career goals. So actually the government doesn't limit you on what type of job you want to do. So you can actually work in anywhere, in any area, as long as it's legal, of course. And actually a very important fact is that Australian unemployment rate is 3.5% and the Australian minimum wage is 21.38 per hour, Australian dollars. I'm always talking Australian dollars here, right? So it's actually quite high, and students, if they organize their time, they can actually work and make good money, enough money to pay your bills, enough money to save up and put aside some money for holidays, traveling. A lot of students, they actually used to travel a lot while they are here. Okay, I only have 5 more minutes for my presentation, so I'm gonna be speeding up a little bit. So admissions requirements and how is the application process for undergraduate studies and postgraduate studies as well. So how many of you guys are interested in undergraduate studies, who wants to come and do their bachelor's degree here? Just write number 1 in the chat if you are interested in a bachelor's degree here at the University of Sydney. Here I saw Karim, undergrad engineering, interested in education. Okay, at least I have Karim here, interested, and Jason as well, Garcia, interested in engineering and IT faculty. Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about, let's talk admission requirements for undergraduate studies. So first of all, it's a little bit tricky, but if you are, or if you have completed or are studying in a high school with IB diploma, international baccalaureate diploma, which is an international school, or if you are doing Cambridge A-levels, or if you have an international qualification, you know that here in Latin America, we have like the French college, the German school, the American school, those who are doing IB diploma. And so if you are studying in an international school, then you will have direct entry into the University of Sydney. We will only need your IB results or your Cambridge A-levels or your international qualification results Plus, you will need to meet our English language requirements as well. How can you meet our English language requirements? Through an English proficiency test, such as IELTS Academic, TOEFL, IBT or PBT, Cambridge Advanced or PTE. Those are the only English exams we accept. If you are not studying in an international high school, if you are studying in a national curriculum, a local curriculum, then you will need to do one more step. Why? Because our national curriculums here in Latin America are 1 year less than what students in Australia do. So that's why we don't have direct entry if we are studying at a national high school, right? So we will need the diploma that you have completed your high school. We will also need, there are three options here. The first option will be doing a foundation program, which I didn't put it here because I don't recommend, because it's quite long and a little bit more expensive. But if you have heard of the SAT or ACT exams, those are American exams available to international students in your country. So the same as you go and do an IELTS or TOEFL, it's just exactly the same thing. You're gonna go and do an SAT. It's a knowledge test. So you will actually need to meet our minimum result required for your desired degree, either SAT or ACT, your English exam, plus your high school diploma, okay? So again, as a summary, if you are studying in an international school, we will only need your international school results plus your English language test, and that's it. If you are studying in a national high school with national curriculum that is not international, then you will need to do either SAT or ACT exams. You will need to do TOEFL, IELTS to meet the English language requirements, and we will need the high school diploma that you have already completed your high school. Okay. We do have this admissions guide that I'm happy to send you guys or to put a link at the end of the presentation for undergrad, where you will have what is the minimum result you will need for English exams, what's the minimum result if you have international baccalaureate diploma, if you are doing SAT, if you are doing ACT. So we have here all the degrees we offer, and you have as well what will be the minimum result you will need to meet our academic admissions requirements. Now, moving on, postgraduate. If you're interested in a master's degree here at the University of Sydney, we will need the certificate of completion in original language and translated to English language, the final transcript in original language and translation. We will need the equivalent to the 65% on the Australian grading system, okay? So you don't worry, I will tell you which one it is in your country, what's the equivalent in your country. But all the students interested in doing a master's degree here needs to meet our minimum academic requirement, which is the equivalent to the 65% in the Australian grading system. Plus English requirements. You can meet those through an IELTS Academic, TOEFL, IBT or PBT, Cambridge Advanced, which is the CAE, or the PTE exam as well. Those are the only English exams we accept, and we don't accept the home versions anymore. So it has to be the normal and traditional version of the English test. It's also, we encourage all our students to attach their curriculum vitae or their resume as well to their applications and their passport as well. So if you're interested in research, which can be master's by research or doctor of philosophy, which is a PhD, you will need all of these documents that I just mentioned, plus you will need to write a research proposal, and you will also need to find and secure a supervisor, so an academic who has decided to be your supervisor for the whole duration of your research degree. Okay. Okay, what's the 65% equivalent to Latin American grading system? So for all of you from Brazil, for example, is on a scale of 0 to 10, where the pass mark, the minimum mark to pass is 5, you will need a 7, okay? So that's the same structure for Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Paraguay. If you are from a country from Latin America and the equivalent is not here, I'm happy to give it to you afterwards. You can contact me and I will be more than happy to provide that information for you. Okay, it's very important that you go to our course page. And for example, if you're interested in an MBA, let's say, so it's important that you go to the course page of the MBA on our website so you can find some additional admission requirements, okay? For example, here for a Master of Architecture, you will need to provide a portfolio. If you are interested in our MBA, you will need a minimum of 3 years of relevant work experience plus an interview. If you are studying in a Master of Engineering, you will need a bachelor degree from engineering, and so on and so forth, okay? So it's very important that you check additional admission requirements for your course of interest. English requirements, as I just mentioned before, if English is not your first language, you will be required to demonstrate your proficiency in English through an English test, which can be IELTS Academic, TOEFL, IBT or PBT, PTE, Cambridge Advanced, or CAE. I think it was formerly called CAE, now is Cambridge Advanced. If you have studied for 1 year in English, it has to be a full-time program or course completed in English, then we can waive the English requirement for you, okay? What's the general process? So how do I apply to the University of Sydney? Guys, that's actually very, very easy. So you choose a course, you check your eligibility, so all those documents and admission requirements that I just mentioned before, you gather all your documents. Just remember that we actually require official documents to support your application, and then you will submit your application. So on the course page, you will find a button that is Apply Now. So you apply now, fill out all the information, attach your documents, and submit your application. Okay, you can also apply directly via our course page, or you can also apply through an education agent. So we have education agents in Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, Peru, Guatemala, Ecuador, Paraguay, Brazil, and Sydney. So it has to be an authorized education agent, and you can find those in our website as well. So this is our year timeline. So semester 1, we have only 2 semesters a year. Semester 1 starting late February, semester 2 starting late July. Application deadlines. Please, you need to have those deadlines in mind. For most of our courses, semester 1 deadline is 15th of January of the commencing year. So you cannot submit your application after the 15th of January of the commencing year. For semester 2, the deadline for application is 25th of June of the commencing year. It's very, we always advise our students to apply at least 3 months in advance, especially if you are out of Australia, because it actually takes time to apply to the university, and you have to be accepted and enroll at the university before applying for your student visa, right? So it actually takes a little bit of time. Application fee waiver, as I just mentioned before, you guys are eligible for that. If you just need to send me an email saying, Paulina, I was in the Docsity webinar. You mentioned that if I was interested in applying to the university, I can have the application fee waiver. Tell me more about next steps, and I'm going to be happy to tell you more about the next steps. So in this QR code, I have all the links, that very useful links for you guys about scholarships, about how to apply, about accommodation, about research as well. Here is my email address if you would like to contact me afterwards, paulina.dominguez@sydney.edu.au. I also speak Spanish, so I'm a native Spanish speaker. If you also speak Spanish and you wanna talk in Spanish, I'm more than happy to do so. Unfortunately, I don't speak Portuguese. I can understand a little bit, but I don't speak Portuguese, so we will need to have a chat in English if you're fine with that. And yeah, that's it. So I usually have saved Tuesdays and Thursdays to have one-on-one session with the students in case you want to discuss your opportunities here at the University of Study further. I'm more than happy to have one-on-one session afterwards. And yeah, feel free to send me an email. Thank you. Thank you, Alessandra. Sorry, I just went over time.
Don't worry, Paulina, we're here to listen to you, not to me. So that's perfect. Hello again, everyone. So thank you, Paulina, for the thorough presentation. And I see that we have a few questions and also that those questions touch on the themes that you already mentioned. So I would say let's quickly circle back on those so that everyone can have a clear view of everything. And let's start with the first one. The first one is actually on the GPA and the minimum required. So the question is, do you require a minimum GPA or language certificate to get accepted? And does the GPA affect my chances to get a scholarship?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So that's a really good question. Yes, the entry to the University of Sydney is based on academic merit. So yes, you will need to have a minimum GPA to be accepted. For postgraduate studies, as I just mentioned, for most of our courses is the 65% equivalent to the Australian grading system. So if I didn't if on my slide you didn't get what's the 55% equivalent in your country, just send me an email and I will be more than happy to tell you what is the minimum GPA for your program of interest and your nationality. Language certificate, yes, you will need to meet our English language requirements as well, and that can be through an English proficiency test, such as IELTS Academic, TOEFL IBT, PTE, or Cambridge Advanced.
Okay, that's perfect, Paulina. Thank you. So let's move to the other one. The question is, how do I apply for scholarships as an international student, and when is the deadline to apply?
Yeah, that's also a very good question, and I didn't mention this. So, for example, faculty scholarships, they do have their own deadlines. So you will need to go to if you have scan the QR code, there are faculty scholarship links, and you will need to go to your faculty of interest, and they will have deadlines for application. You usually will need to have an unconditional offer of admissions before applying for any faculty scholarship. And for the Sydney International Student Award, which is the 20% contribution towards your tuition fee, the deadline there is no deadline really, but you need to apply before accepting your offer, because once you accept your offer and we issue the confirmation of enrollment, you cannot apply anymore for the Sydney International Scholarship Scheme, for the Sydney International Student Award. Okay, usually what I recommend students is apply for this one once you are making your online application to your course. So you will have a section there that says Sydney International Student Award. You will have the opportunity to submit, to attach your personal statement to that one. But really the deadline for that one will be before the accepting of your offer.
Perfect. Thank you, Paulina. So let's move to the next one. The question is, are there any internship opportunities with companies during the courses? And do you have a job placement department?
Absolutely, yes. And yes. So as I just mentioned, the University of Sydney has been the first in Australia and fourth in the world for graduate employability for 6 years in a row. So yes, from the very beginning, you will have opportunity to participate in real world projects, and also you will have the opportunity to do internships in Australia or outside Australia. We have agreement with more than 250 companies around the world, so you will have the opportunity to do that as well. And we have something that is called work placements as well. And in Australia, we do have agreement with companies such as Google, Microsoft, KPMG, Coca-Cola, Telstra. So yeah, our students, they do tend to go and do the internships to big companies. So that's how they actually start building their professional experience differently.
That's great to know. So we have 2 more questions left. The next one is, do you provide financial aid for transportation costs?
Yeah, that's a good question. The short answer is no, we don't provide any financial aid for transportation costs. What we do provide, however, is the transportation from the airport to your accommodation if you are within certain suburbs. So that's for free for students enroll at the University of Sydney, but we don't have any financial aid for your daily transportation, let's call it like that.
Okay, so another question just came in, so we have 2 again. And the next one is by Thomas, and he asks, what's the minimum equivalent grade for Argentina as opposed to get in?
Yeah, for the 25%, Thomas, I think it is 75 in Argentina, if I'm not wrong, but I might be. I don't have it on the top of my mind. But if you send me an email, I'm more than happy to give you the more accurate information for Argentina. And if you can also send me what course you are interested in, I will send you the right information for that particular course.
Okay, thank you, Paulina. So let's move to the last one, which is by Wesley. And he asks, how can Brazilian students obtain financial resources to study in Australia? So I suppose he wants to know more, again, about the scholarship for international students.
Yeah, thank you, Wesley, for your question. Yeah, so Brazilian students get into the category of Latin American students, so you will be able to apply for our Sydney International Student Award, which is a 20% contribution towards your tuition fee per year. This is not based on academic merit, but you will only need to write a personal statement, attach that to your online application. If you scan the QR code here, you will see Sydney International Student Award, a 20% contribution. You will have all the information there. You have the template to write the personal statement. You can also apply for a faculty scholarship that each of our faculties offer scholarships for international students either interested in undergrad or postgrad studies. So you will have that kind of support. And I don't believe there is any additional scholarship from the Australian government for students wanting to do a master's degree. However, there is the RTP program, which is research training program. So this is a full scholarship that the Australian government offers to students doing a PhD. Of course, it's very competitive and you will need to have a very good profile if you were to apply for that one. But those are the kind of financial support that you can have if you want to come study here at the University of Sydney.
Okay, I see that many questions are still coming in, so we have 2 more. And the next one is, to apply to an engineering degree, do you need a higher average than required?
No. You will think you would, but actually no. As long as you meet our minimum GPA required for your desired program, you're very likely to have an offer from the University of Sydney to study engineering here with us. But yes, you will, it's not higher than minimum, and you won't have higher chances if your GPA is are very, very good. As long as you meet our minimum admissions requirements, then yes, you will probably have an offer. Of course, if you are applying for a master's degree, you might need to provide additional documentation, and that will be taken into consideration to assess your application. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Paulina. So let's move to the last question. And the question is, do you have a scholarship for PhD programs?
We do have scholarship for PhD programs. So the Sydney International Student Award applies for PhD as well. The faculty scholarships apply for PhD. If you're interested in a PhD in engineering, you may be eligible for a scholarship that our Faculty of Engineering offers, and it's to cover full tuition fee as long as you have a stipend from a local government sponsorship. If you do not have that, then you won't be eligible, but you can always apply to the RTP, which is the one I just mentioned, Research Training Program, which is offered by the government, by the Australian government, to cover all your tuition fee for your PhD. And it's actually very, very competitive. So if you scan the QR code here and you go to HDR or higher degree by research, you will find the RTP scholarship there, and you can actually find more information about that there.
Okay, that's perfect. We're done with the questions. So thanks again, Paulina, for being with us today. And thanks to everyone for joining us today and being responsive and curious. So I hope you've learned a lot about sunny Australia and the University of Sydney today. And that helped you make the decision to actually move there and start a new chapter in life. So I'd like to remind you that important information Paulina shared with us today, so that since you participated in the webinar, you can contact her, and if you're interested in enrolling in the university, she'll be happy to waive the application fee for you. And so on this theme, I would like to remind everyone that is interested in receiving a certificate of attendance by Docsity, that you can click on the link that will be sent in the chat and request it, so that Paulina is 100% sure that you are with us today. In the meantime, I would like to ask Paulina if she wants to leave our students with a final message before saying goodbye.
Yeah, my only final message will be, don't wait too long and apply now, because sometimes we actually think about it for a long time and we ended up doing nothing. So if you guys have the opportunity, I really think coming to study at the University of Sydney is a great choice. It's going to be a great experience, but it's going to be a great venture. So I hope we can see you in Sydney soon.
Okay, so thanks again, Paulina. Thanks again, everyone, for being with us today. And I hope to see you again at the next webinar organized by Docsity in partnership with the University of Sydney. So bye, everyone. Have a nice
See you guys
day.
next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.